Am I the butthole for pulling my daughter from a water park trip because her teacher made her stay with a kid she doesn't like? My daughter Bryn, 9 female, is going on a trip to a nearby water park with her class next week. She loves water and has been talking about it for months, so I was a bit thrown off when she came home crying a few days ago and told me she didn't want to go. I asked her why and she wouldn't tell me because she thought I'd think she's a bad person. When I finally coaxed it out of her, she said her teacher Ms. Ann has forced her to be the buddy of her classmate Ben for the entirety of the trip. She was to ride the bus with Ben to and from the trip, eat lunch with him, and go on all the rides with him instead of spending time with her friends. She then said nobody likes Ben because he whines whenever they have to do work and picks his nose and wipes boogers everywhere. I was horrified, not only because Ms. Ann had made Bryn do such a thing, but also because she had made her believe she was a bad person for not wanting to. Unfortunately, this wasn't my first experience with Ms. Ann, as she frequently used my soft-spoken, intelligent older daughter as a behavior buffer for the naughty boys until I threatened to report her to the superintendent. It's clear to me that Ms. Ann is still too comfortable with enforcing archaic gender roles on her kids and forcing girls to do unpaid emotional labor for the sake of the boys. I immediately sent Ms. Ann an email condemning her actions. She sent me back an email with a bunch of bullcrap that basically ended with if Bryn goes on the trip, she has to be Ben's buddy. Fine. I informed her Bryn would not be attending then. I immediately booked VIP tickets the same day her class was going so she could still go to the park and see her friends. What happened next I wasn't expecting. Bryn is quite popular, so I have gotten to know a lot of the moms in her class. When I let them know what Ms. N did, some of them were so horrified that they also pulled their kids out of the trip. In total, 8 kids, out of a class of 20, are either not going, or going with us. Today I got an email from Ms. N saying that because almost half of the class isn't going, they either have to raise the cost for the other students or not go at all. She practically begged me to let Bryn go and tell all the other parents to let their kids go, promising she wouldn't make Bryn do anything she didn't want to do. I told her she should have thought about that before she tried to make my daughter do her job. My husband said I was being a bit petty and that Ms. Ann clearly feels bad about what she did, and I should let Bryn go as I've already gotten my way. He asked me if I really wanted to deprive children of what they've been waiting for all year. The thing is, if this wasn't Ms. N's first offense I probably would have agreed, but she has a pattern of this type of behavior and hopefully this will put a stop to it. Plus, if she has to explain this to her superiors, I have receipts. Is my husband right? Or am I justified? Update: Bryn was the only student assigned a buddy. The rest of the students were free to do what they wanted. Am I alone in suspecting that the teacher isn't so much feeling bad about what she did, but faintly terrified of either having to explain to her superiors why the trip is suddenly in jeopardy, or the backlash from other parents when it comes out why the trip she organized has fallen apart? Not to mention that if you've booked VIP tickets, I'm going to guess that if you did cancel your plans to suit her, you'd end up paying twice over, once for the school tickets, and again for the VIP tickets you've already bought? Not the butthole. I'd stick with a simple sorry, I've already committed to and paid for my own arrangements for that date now, with a possible unless other parents ask and you actually can rearrange without significant personal loss. Bryn was the only student assigned a buddy. The rest of the students were free to do what they wanted. I mean, just this is the only reason you need to be not the butthole. I'm really bowled over by anyone who would think this is in any way acceptable. Teacher is a piece of work. Am I the butthole for not letting an elderly woman have my son's seat on the bus? Alright, so my son, 17, has weekly therapy appointments that I take him to. Unfortunately, my husband let our daughter borrow his car and then had an emergency at work so he had to use my car, so my son and I had to take the bus. It wasn't ideal, but I'd rather the bus than miss an appointment. While it isn't my place to share why he goes to therapy, I will say that he will often forget to eat. I usually make sure he's fed, but due to the mess in the morning, it slipped my mind. The bus wasn't too crowded but all the seats were taken. My son wasn't doing too well and I could tell he was feeling dizzy from hunger plus the bus. So the second someone got off their seat, I sat him down. I then tried to find a chocolate bar I had in my bag. While this is happening, I noticed an elderly woman and her adult daughter standing beside us. I didn't pay much attention until the daughter tapped me on the shoulder. She asked if my son could move so that her elderly mother could have a seat. I felt really bad, I really did, but my son was not doing great and standing would make it harder. I had found the chocolate and he was eating it slowly, but if he stood up right then, I can assure you he would have fainted. I apologized to her and explained that my son wasn't feeling well. She rolled her eyes at me and said that she saw him standing earlier and that he's a young healthy teenage boy, he'll be fine. I apologized once again and told her that he wasn't feeling well and that if he was then he himself would have offered her a seat. The daughter told me to look at her mother and I admit, the poor woman looked really tired. But I couldn't. My son had started to lean against me, so I told the woman one last time that I was sorry and to ask someone else. I then heard them both whispering and calling me an entitled jerk. And when we got off the bus, a woman that got off with us said that a teenage boy can handle standing more than an elderly woman can and that she hopes someone treats me like that when I'm her age. My son was so out of it, I don't think he even noticed or cared, but I can't get this off my mind. Am I the butthole? A totally unrelated woman thought I was along with the two. I wasn't sitting down and did not have a seat. Not the butthole. You handled it the same way I would have, politely explaining that your son wasn't feeling well and needed to sit. I'm sure there were many other people they could have asked, and many other people that could have offered, so I'm not sure why they felt the need to pick on you and your son. Not the butthole. Having an invisible illness is the pits. For just this very reason. I too get these crashes on occasion, and there's no choice to it. If I don't sit down and get something in me, a Gatorade if nothing else, I will pass out. I've been this way all my life, thin and chunky, and yes, have been to billions of doctors over it, slight exaggeration. 99% of the time I manage it well, but sometimes forget to eat or think it's been a lot less time since last eating than it has been. Not the butthole. Sorry they were so rude to you. Often people have disabilities or illness that is not obvious from their appearance. Once you explain to them that your son had a need for the seat, they should have backed off. After that it was their issue. Also, if the elderly woman needed a seat so bad, they could have asked basically anyone on the bus who was able-bodied. It doesn't make any sense that he limited their search to one person because he was a teenage boy. Am I the butthole for calling my daughter a selfish, insecure little brat? My daughter, 16, and I have gotten into a massive fight. My daughter has always been a picky eater and we have always done our best to accommodate her, feeding her before parties, weddings, etc. The problem lies with my husband's upcoming birthday, turning 50. The restaurant he has picked is very special to us. That is where we first met as children for a business deal our parents had, and then we became best friends when he asked me out in that very restaurant, and our first date was there. When he proposed to me and who catered our wedding, I told him I was pregnant and we held my daughter's first birthday there. Unfortunately, we couldn't go there a lot as we had to move for his job, but basically, all the major events of our lives were held there. So for my husband's birthday, to celebrate him turning half a century old, we want to go there. We once took our daughter there when she was 10 and she hated it. But now since she is 16, I thought she would have matured enough, and it is not like I'm forcing her to eat. She has the option of eating at home, and I've told her so many times that the restaurant does have food she likes to eat, but she claims that it smells bad. It is a seafood restaurant, but we always sit outside at our usual table, so I don't understand that. She says that we are being selfish, but I told her it's not about her, it's not her day. In anger, she has refused to talk to us and not doing her usual chores and is refusing to eat. My husband is heartbroken and thinks it is all his fault and wants to cancel, but I think it will just fuel her brattiness. Today my husband had to work late, so it was only my daughter and me. When I called for my daughter to come to eat, she looked at the food and then took the plate and dumped it in the bin. I was shocked. Food is valuable and she didn't have to do that. I snapped at her, calling her a selfish, insecure little brat. That she is not only hurting her father but ruining his birthday, and it's not as if we are asking her to give up a kidney. That if she continues this behavior, we will never fund her birthday parties ever again. She said that I am a terrible mother for saying that. I feel like I went overboard, but that she is acting like a brat. Am I the butthole? Edit, I am sorry for the late reply. I posted this and went to sleep. No, my daughter does not have anything like autism or any food allergies. We tested her when she was 10. We can't leave her at home because this restaurant is across the country from where we are going to meet our family, and according to our country's laws she is still not allowed to be alone for more than a day without parental supervision. We have never had a fight like this, and she usually is a chill kid. I have no idea what has gotten into her. Not the butthole. And I honestly don't understand all the comments. Daughter is 16, old enough to know better. Yesterday Reddit criticized a mother for always catering to her picky eater, and making sure wherever they go kid likes the food. Now Reddit is calling OP and Ah for telling her daughter no, it's not about her. This girl threw food away just because, instead of saying no thank you, not hungry. How is this okay? The only thing OP is to blame for, is for letting her daughter be so entitled, thinking it has to be where she wants. Because she's a picky eater. It's her dad's birthday. That restaurant is special to him. Edit, thanks for the awards. Also wanted to add, at the end of the day OP, it's both you and your husband choice if you're going to put a stop to this entitlement. Like one commenter said below, she's going as far as to not eat in order to manipulate her parents. She's not doing her chores, and your husband is thinking of giving up and rewarding that behavior? If you do, your daughter will go out expecting the world to cater to her, and manipulate just to get her way. Reddit can give you a lot of advice, taking her electronics, not go out, etc. And this comes from someone that was a picky eater as a kid, grew out of it. Because my mother didn't give me a choice. I couldn't pick McDonald's or fast food, just because I didn't like my food. You are not the butthole, but your daughter certainly is. Please don't cater to her as you're right, it will fuel things. If she can't get over herself for a special dinner with her dad, why not leave her at home, as she will probably just cause unnecessary drama. She seriously needs to grow up and learn that the world doesn't revolve around her. If she doesn't learn it now, the world will teach her, and it won't be a nice lesson. Am I the butthole for going nuclear and staying at a hotel? We'll try and keep it short. I suffer from migraines and type 1 diabetes. We were advised not to try and get pregnant due to my lack of control of my blood sugars. It happened and it sucks, although I've been monitoring it so much better and been doing much better. 1. I ask my husband constantly to turn the sleeves of his tops the right way in. He wears 2 to 3 tops a day. If he goes gym it's 3, 2 if he's going out, which he 9/10 does, and he doesn't, so I'm ironing 10 tops each week at minimum, and it just gets so annoying to constantly be turning in the sleeves. 2. I ask him once a week to unload the dishwasher and get rid of the rubbish. I do it the rest of the time. Rubbish wasn't emptied, and when I opened a cupboard a few plates fell out and one fell on me, which hurts more than it sounds like. 3. I had a migraine. I asked him to keep the lights off and keep it quiet, and he insisted on A, playing loud music, and B, turning the lights on. I just lost it. I'm so uncomfortable, and it's like I feel like I asked the minimum. So I told him I wouldn't be having 2 children and asked him to leave. He wouldn't, so I texted my brothers and they came and made him leave. He's texting me, I since calmed down, and saying I'm the because I overreacted, went nuclear and can't do that when I have the baby. He's insisting I apologize. Am I the butthole? Edit. Notice the error in title, should say making him stay at a hotel. Not the butthole. Stop ironing his shirts, girl. You are pregnant with a serious, life-threatening, medical condition. He isn't even doing the bare minimum to be a decent partner. Do you have family close by that you could stay with for a bit to get a mental break? If he insists on coming home and being so rude. I'm sorry you're going through this. Info: why can't he iron his own shirts and get headphones? I'd divorce before you're forced to single parent with him in the room. Am I the butthole for wearing a romper and not a dress at a wedding? I, 16, gender fluid, was recently at a close relative's wedding with my family, just guests, not as part of the bridal party or anything. The dress code the bride told us, and that was on the invite, was that women wore dresses and men had to wear something similarly formal, for example a suit. I am a fab, so was told I would have to wear a dress. I don't identify as a woman, however, so I wasn't comfortable with this and asked for a potential compromise on my outfit. She insisted that I wore a dress. Cut to when my family were ordering their wedding clothes / figuring out their outfits. My parents asked if I had found anything suitable, and I sent them a link to a romper that looks very much like a dress at first glance. It's genuinely not noticeable unless you look closely that the bottom part is not a skirt. We got the romper, it arrives and everything is fine. I wore it to the wedding, and for the first part everything seems okay, until I am pulled along too hard by a kid and end up tripping and falling face first, sprawled out on the floor. As everyone nearby gathers around to see what happened, the bride notices that the bottom part of my outfit is shorts and not a skirt, and loses her crap and starts screaming at me that she made it clear I needed to wear a dress and that I was being selfish by going against her wishes on her special day. I'm pretty sensitive and also hate loud noise as I'm autistic, so I start crying because the mix of pain from scraping my leg and her loud voice yelling is enough to overstimulate me pretty badly. My cousin leads me away to treat my wound. The bride stalks off still fuming and won't speak to us for the rest of the night until we eventually leave at the end of the wedding. I was reassured by some members of my family that I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm still super hung up over it and wondering if it was bad of me to wear that. I'm happy to provide a link to my outfit if anyone wants to see it to gauge for themselves. Edit: this was what I wore. Edit 2: not attending wasn't really an option. She was marrying a close family member and we were pretty much expected to be there. My parents said that I needed to come as well. Edit 3: this is the most feminine item I own by far, and the discomfort is mainly subconscious with dysphoria and all, and the being forced into a gender binary when that's not who I am. Plus, I enjoy the security of not worrying if my skirt will fly up in the wind. I would have much preferred a pantsuit or something, but knew that wouldn't go, so this was the closest thing to fitting dress code I could find. Edit 4: I am perfectly fine with providing photos of the professional photo prints they had done of the event when they are ready, as evidence. It just might take a while. Not the butthole. Dress codes for non-wedding party members are usually for a level of formality, not a prescription for a particular article of clothing. If you can't even tell the outfit isn't up to code without a trip-fall accident, I hope you're okay. I can't see what the problem would be. Not the butthole. What is it with all these brides suddenly deciding they have more control over their guests' dress choices than selecting one of the standard dress codes? No, bride, you don't get to insist that women wear dresses versus a nice pantsuit or a nice romper that looks like a dress. Not the butthole. You did the best compromise you could, which is a romper. As someone who does identify as a woman, but doesn't like dresses, it totally makes sense that you did the best with what you had. Honestly, the fact you found a romper that looks like a dress was very cool. It's kind of weird that the bride was so hung up on you having to wear a dress. But your family also let you get the romper. So if your family is on your side, then you aren't the butthole. I'm sorry this happened, friend. Am I the butthole for telling my daughter to learn some social skills and make friends her own age? I have a 19-year-old daughter, Samantha. Samantha doesn't have many friends. She rarely leaves the house except for school or work and never brings people over. She never stays late at school or tries to talk to anybody either. Part of it is because all she talks about is kids. She loves kids, works with kids, and is in school to work with kids, her dog, musicals, and baking. My other kids are the exact opposite. I'd get into arguments with them because they were never at home, but at least they had social lives, friends, and boyfriends. Sure, they got into trouble, but I'd rather that than Samantha never going out or talking to anybody. Samantha is in a math class with a professor that encourages the kids to work together and talk to each other. I thought this would be great for Samantha, and I was stoked when she said that she and some other people started a study group. Then she told me about the group. There's her, another 19-year-old girl, a 30-year-old man, a 35-year-old woman, and a 45-year-old woman. The worst part is that she mostly only talks to the 35 and 45-year-olds. We just went to a graduation party for a girl that's exactly like Samantha. The girl didn't know anybody at the party except for her sister and looked miserable the entire time. She talked to two people at the party, a girl close to her age who works a similar job to her and has a pet, so they talked about work, kids, and their pets, and a woman 15 years older than her who has a job very similar to what Samantha wants to do, and all they talked about was school and that future job. When we were driving home, we were talking about how sad it is that the graduate didn't know anyone at her own party, how she doesn't have any social skills, and that she's going to have a hard time finding a job because she doesn't know how to talk to people. Samantha stayed quiet, and I told her if she doesn't figure out how to talk to people and start talking to kids her own age, she's going to end up exactly like the graduate. She didn't say anything in the car, but when we got home she packed a bag, got in the car, and went to my mother-in-law's house. My mother-in-law has always coddled her and told her there's nothing wrong with her when she's asked, and has gone so far as to yell at me, kick me out of her house, and even threatened to take me to court for money that my husband and I borrowed but never paid back, when I did say that there probably is something wrong with her if she doesn't know how to talk to people like a normal person. My mother-in-law also blames me and my other kids for Samantha being the way she is. Samantha used to tell everyone everything when she was younger, and we used to make fun of her for it. Samantha's friends also preferred to hang out with my older daughter when she brought her friends over, but it's not my fault that her friends found my older daughter more interesting. Am I the butthole for telling her to learn social skills and talk to people? AITA. You basically said she needs to stop being who she is or she'll be a failure. Way to invalidate your kid. So your parenting methods when she was a child made her fear being open and socializing, and you want to continue criticizing the small amount of socializing she's comfortable with as a result of your earlier parenting. I think I summed that up right. If you keep talking to her like that, you're going to be the one to blame for her quiet social life, not her. And hey, she might prefer to not be the life of the party. I never was. And another thing, she'll never get a job as she can't talk to people her own age? In what world is her employer also going to be a 19-year-old girl? She seems to do just fine talking to older adults about her work. Seems to me you're just mad that she's not as social as you want her to be. Get knotted. You're the butthole. Samantha used to tell everyone everything when she was younger, and we used to make fun of her for it. You are very much in butthole. Am I the butthole for telling a guy to move his crying baby out of a quiet enclosure at the zoo? I, 19 male, visited the zoo today with my family, and we were checking out the koalas, who I was especially excited to see. You may not know this, but koalas apparently need over 18 hours of sleep a day to function, or else they can get quite unhealthy quite quickly, And so any exhibit of them at a zoo will often come with an expectation that you maintain a certain level of silence while observing them. This zoo today was no exception. You are made to go through 2 gates, both of which have signage saying please be quiet, keep the noise down, silence please, etc. And then the door to the koala house itself has another sign, please keep noise levels to a minimum. With all those reminders, I figured people would get the memo, but as soon as we entered the enclosure, which was a small room indoors with a glass window looking into the koala pen, I spotted a couple in their early 30s with 2 young kids and a baby. I somewhat apprehensively tried to observe the koalas. They were so cute and my little sister was happy to see them, but then, like clockwork, the baby starts crying. Hardly the baby's fault, it's a baby, they cry, so I gave the dad of the family the benefit of the doubt thinking he'd either take the baby out or calm her down. A few moments pass, the baby gets more annoyed and cries louder. The koalas scurry away, hiding in their cubby holes, and others wake up from their sleeping. I give the dad the look. I feel like everyone knows the look, we've either had someone give it to us or given it to someone else. I'm not sure I'd ever been on this end of it, but I definitely received some looks at times. Baby continues to cry. I, being a socially awkward autistic teenager, grapple with the idea that the dad might have missed my giving him the look, so I do the classic, I shake my head and give a little sigh. No change. I throw another look his way, this time a little more firm, but I feel like I overdo it. My eyes are a little too intense, perhaps, because suddenly the dad is saying, in the voice of someone who's just gotten a lecture, well alright mate, it's just a baby, to which I reply with a gesture towards the sign silence, please. But it's a baby. He says. Well, don't bring a baby in here, I reply, in a whisper. My parents jump on me, thinking I'm out of line, and the couple and their kids give me the filthiest of looks and leave the enclosure, leaving me feeling very tense. What do we think? I feel like this is a very common struggle in a public place where there aren't always members of staff to enforce the rules. We want to pick our battles, of course, but this family bringing their baby in spoiled my little sister's magical moment seeing a koala for the first time. Surely they should have seen the signs and thought probably best to not bring little Charlie in, or, if they really wanted to see the koalas, the dad could have stayed outside with the baby and the mom and the kids could have gone in. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole, they obviously were able to read the signs, they just think it didn't apply. I think you did a great job, it was mostly non-verbal and dude finally got the hint, but still tried to make excuses. It's a baby, well yes, but baby doesn't know when and where is proper to be noisy, cause it's a baby, therefore be a parent and also be mindful of other creatures, humans or not. So you did have to let him know that the signs are there for a reason, and you even whisper yelled, which showed that even you were trying to keep quiet out of respect. Librarians don't put up with that in their domain, koalas shouldn't have to either, but they can't speak, so they need an advocate. You are a great koala advocate. Great job OP, and you can tell your parents I said so. I'm a mom of 2, grandmother of 3, and my kids would never have kept a crying baby in a quiet place because I taught them manners, and I also took my crying babies out of church, a wedding and a theater, not an infant, a 5-year-old who insisted he was old enough to go to the movies even though he was really sensitive to sound. I told him he wouldn't like it and he was feeling really left out because his friends went to the movies, so, yeah, too loud, not a scary movie, but the noise was too much and he got scared, so he cried and we left. Because I knew that I was responsible for my little's noise in public. Not the butthole. Warning, rant incoming. I think you're fine, you didn't even say anything that mean? I disagree with everyone saying you were wrong to be passive aggressive. In social settings like this, some looks can save them the embarrassment, if they catch on, which this guy clearly didn't, of them getting verbally called out. Also, it reduces the noise. OP would be a hypocrite to talk to the dad, making more noise himself, while he was mad about the family making too much noise. Sure, maybe you should have left it up to the staff. But I agree with you, people shouldn't be stupid enough to bring a baby that will inevitably cry at some point into a silent place. There was an abundance of signs saying to be quiet. Can they not read? Your assessment of maybe shouldn't bring the baby in is spot on in my opinion. If a couple brought their baby into a movie theater, a place that has a similar expectation of remaining quiet, and their kids start screaming, people would get justifiably pissed. This is arguably worse than that because you're disturbing animals. If the couple really wanted to bring their older children in, they could have taken turns. One stays outside with baby, one goes in with the older children, then comes out to watch the baby, other parent goes in. Too inconvenient? Too bad. You chose to have kids and you can't bring all kids everywhere all the time. You could also have just one parent go in with the older children and leave it at that. It's not like it was a solo parent who had no choice but to bring all 3 inside. Or, better yet, don't go see the koalas if you can't follow the rules. Tons of options that don't involve making other people and animals inconvenienced by your children. If the baby started crying and they left soon after, that would be fine. If the baby was in a deep sleep, that's okay as long as they're quiet. But as soon as the kid starts crying loudly, you need to take them out. He tried to say it was okay just because the baby doesn't know better. Well, you should. FFS. From how you're describing it, it sounds like this kid was crying for a while too. Not cool.